Welcome back to the deep dive. We are really glad you're here with us today.
It's good to be here.
We are about to unpack an image, a specific visual moment that I think everyone has seen scrolling past on their timeline recently.
Oh, for sure.
It's one of those things that just stops your thumb mid-scroll. You look at it, you squint, you maybe turn your brightness up and you think, wait a minute. But I don't think many people have actually stopped to process the full implications of what...
No, I don't.
We are talking about Kelly Osbourne, and specifically, we are talking about her recent appearance at the Grammys.
It was quite the moment.
Ah!
And honestly, calling it a moment feels like, well, it feels like putting it lightly. It was more of a visual shockwave.
A shockwave. Yeah, that's a good word for it.
It rippled across the internet instantly. It wasn't just a red carpet photo. It felt like a Rorschach test for where we are culturally with body image right now.
Right.
It forced a conversation that I think we've all been kind of trying to avoid.
Exactly. It wasn't the usual, who are you wearing, or listen to her new single situation. It was a, wait, is that actually her kind of situation?
It really was.
We are looking at a really interesting stack of today that center around a candid, no-holds-barred discussion from Pop Culture Crisis. They broke down the photos, the reaction, and honestly, the medical and societal questions that this one appearance raised.
And they did not pull any punches.
No, they didn't. And I have to say, looking at the data and the comments, the reaction wasn't, wow, she looks great. The immediate reaction, the word that kept popping up in our source material over and over again was sickly.
That is the key word, sickly. And I want to be clear right off the top. What we are doing today isn't just gossiping about a celebrity's appearance.
No, absolutely not.
That's too easy, and frankly, it's not what we do here. We aren't here to body shame or point fingers. We are using this moment to explore a concept that our sources identify, something that explains why that image was so jarring. They call it the problematic convergence.
The problematic convergence. It sounds like a title from a sci-fi thriller or a lecture on astrophysics.
Chuckles. It does.
But it's actually happening right now in Hollywood. So let's unpack that before we get into the specific photos. What exactly is convergence?
It is a collision of two very extreme, very modern forces. On one side, you have the world of extreme plastic surgery.
Okay, so structural changes, implant, facelifts.
Exactly. Buckle, fat removal, jaw sculpting, all of it. And then on the other side, you have the rapid fat-depleting effects of GLP-1 agonists.
The drugs we all know as Ozempic.
Right. When you crash those two things together, the structural angularity from the surgery and the rapid, profound volume loss from the drugs, you get a look that we haven't really seen before. Or rather, you get a look that creates a kind of cognitive dissonance because it just feels so unnatural.
It's almost like the uncanny valley, but for a real person's face.
Precise. It disrupts our pattern recognition. We know what a thin person looks like. We know what a surgically enhanced person looks like. But this combination, it's new territory.
And that's really the mission of this deep dive. We are going to look at the return of heroin chic, which is a throwback I really did not think we'd be dealing with in the 2020s.
I know, me neither.
We're going to look at how this destroys the credibility of natural weight loss. And we are going to get into a pretty deep philosophical debate that popped up in our research. Does chemically induced weight loss, does it rob you of the sense of accomplishment?
It is a profound question. If you bypass the discipline, do you lose the reward? Is happiness chemical or is it behavioral? These are the questions we really need to wrestle with.
Definitely.
But before we get to the philosophy, we have to look at the evidence. We have to talk about the Osbourne.
Right. Segment 1, the case study. Let's talk about the visual. The source material for this deep dive was looking at photos of Kelly Osbourne from the Grammys, and they were stiff. I was looking at the notes, and there was a lot of discussion about man.
Yes, there was a detail the source noted immediately. In one of the photos from the event, people were zooming in on her hands.
Right.
There was a lot of speculation that the photo was badly edited, perhaps an AI upscale or just a bad Photoshop job, making her hands look disproportionately large or, rough compared to this very polished, very small face.
It's that classic thing where the face is filtered to oblivion, but the hands tell the truth of age or weight or just reality.
Exactly. But the commentator in our source made a really sharp point. They said, and I'm paraphrasing, "This is hideous enough without the edit."
Wow, that is incredibly blunt.
It is. But the argument wasn't just being mean for the sake of it. The point was that whether or not that specific hand was Photoshopped, the reality of the face was not.
The core issue was still there.
The sunken look wasn't a digital artifact. It was the physical reality of the convergence we just defined. The hands were just a distraction from the main event, which was the facial structure.
Okay, let's drill down on that, because Kelly Osbourne, for most of her life, has had a fuller face. That was her look. It was part of her identity.
Correct. And to understand why the Grammy photos were so shocking, you have to look at the history. Kelly has been in the public eye since she was, a teenager?
Yeah, since the Osbournes, we've watched her grow up.
We have. And the source points out that she has undergone surgeries to change her facial structure. She wanted a more angular. We see this trend everywhere. removing the buccal fat pads in the cheeks to get that contoured look, the sharp jawline.
Which is fine, right? I mean, people get surgery to define their jawline or cheekbones all the time. That's pretty much standard Hollywood procedure now.
Oh, absolutely. If you want a sharper chin, you get an implant. If you want high cheekbones, you get filler or a lift. In isolation, yes. But here is where the convergence happens. Plastic surgery often aims to create sharp line, artificial bone structure, jaw implants, chin implants, cheek. But usually, you have a layer of subcutaneous fat that softens those lines.
Okay.
That fat layer is what makes a face look human and youthful. It's the padding, it's the upholstery on the furniture.
I like that analogy. So the surgery is the frame of the couch and the fat...
Exact. Now, enter Ozempic.
The padding remover.
The padding remover. Enter the GLP-1. These drugs strip fat aggressively, and specifically, as we have heard with the term Ozempic face, they strip volume from the face very, very quickly.
Right.
So imagine the geometry. You have surgically enhanced sharp angle, literal implants or altered bone, sharper than that, and then you chemically remove all the organic padding that sits on top. What are you left with?
You're left with a skeleton. You see the architecture without the drywall. You see the frame without the cushion.
Essentially, you get a gaunt, sunken look. The source described it as angular restructuring meeting total fat depletion. It's not just skinny, it's architectural in a way that biology doesn't usually allow.
What do you mean by that?
Well, a natural face, even a very thin one, usually retains some softness, some collagen, some hydration. This look is hard. It's severe. It creates shadows where there shouldn't be shadows.
It creates that look where the skin seems to be pulled tight over the bone, almost like it's shrink wrapped.
Shrink wrapped is a very accurate way to visualize, and that's why it triggers that sickly reaction we talked about. Our brains are wired to see fat in the face as a sign of health and vitality. When it's gone, especially over sharp artificial bone, it signals something is wrong.
And it's not just Kelly. We have to talk about Sharon Osbourne here. She is a massive part of this narrative because unlike a lot of celebs who dodge the question or attribute their weight loss to Pilates and olive oil,
Chuckle slice.
Sharon has been incredibly open about this.
She has. And her admission is actually quite terrifying if you listen closely to what she's saying. Sharon has admitted that she looks, in her own words, terrible.
She said that herself.
She has used the word excessive. She knows she went too far. She is looking in the mirror and acknowledging that the result is not what she wanted.
That is so rare. Usually you see the double down. I've never felt better. I'm living my best life. But she's actually saying...
She sees what we see. But here is the horror of it. This is the point of no return that the source highlighted. She revealed that she cannot gain the weight back.
Oh, wow.
Even after stopping or reducing the dose, her body isn't bouncing back. She is stuck in this depleted state.
That is the part that gave me chills reading the research. Because we talk about these drugs like a light switch on, off. You know, I want to be skinny. Okay, click. Now I'm too skinny. Click. Let me go back. But Sharon is saying the switch is broken.
A switch is broken.
The light is stuck in the off.
Precise. And that brings up the tragedy of it all. You have a mother and daughter who are arguably getting a lot of negative PR for this look. The internet is not being kind.
No.
But the source asks a really pivotal question. Do they even care? Or has the body dysmorphia taken over completely?
And that's the heroin chic revival part of this, isn't it? The source mentioned that Kelly might actually like this look.
It's very possible.
Oh.
You have to remember, and the source was careful to mention this, Kelly spent her youth being criticized for being overweight. She grew up in the public eye, constantly critiqued for her size in the tabloids.
I remember that era. The tabloids were ruthless in the early 2000s. Brutal.
They were. When you come from that background, your internal scale of what looks good might be completely inverted. If you've been told your whole life that big is bad, then logically small as possible must be best possible.
So to us, it looks sickly. But to someone who has fought their weight their whole life, seeing bones might look like victory.
Exactly.
Seeing the clavicle pop, seeing the hollow cheek, that might be the trophy.
That's the theory. The source suggests she might idolize this extreme opposite. It's a revival of that 90s, 2000s aesthetic where gaunt was the goal.
Kate Moss, the early grunge era. Yeah.
The problem is achieving that look through starvation is one thing and dangerous enough.
Yeah.
But achieving it through a combination of surgery and potent pharmaceuticals creates a visual that is even more jarring because it happens so fast and so absolutely.
It's industrial strength heroin chic.
That's a grim way to put it, but yeah, it's the aesthetic of wasting away, but achieved through high-tech medical intervention.
And that leads us perfectly into the medical side, because it's not just about aesthetics. It's about what is physically happening inside the body to create that outside look.
Exactly.
Let's move to segment 2, the physiology of the quick fix.
This is where we need to get a bit technical. because the source material provided a really unique perspective here. One of the commentators in the source actually suffers from a genetic stomach condition called gastroparesis.
Which translates to stomach paralysis, right?
Correct. Gastro meaning stomach, paresis meaning partial paralysis or weakness. It's a condition where the stomach empties very, very slow. It's generally considered a disorder, a serious medical issue that people try to cure.
Right, it's a disease.
People with this condition suffer from nausea, vomiting, bloating, malnutrition. It's not a lifestyle choice. It's a chronic illness.
But the source points out a massive irony here.
The irony is that Ozempic and similar drugs essentially induce gastroparesis to make you lose weight. That is the mechanism of action.
Wait, let me get this straight. The drug is giving you a stomach disorder on purpose. That's how it works.
That is the primary mechanism for weight loss. It slows down digestion so significantly via the vagus nerve and hormonal signaling that you feel full long. The food just sits in your stomach.
So it doesn't move.
It doesn't move.
Yeah,
you physically cannot eat because your stomach is still dealing with the food from hours and hours ago.
It's like a traffic jam on the highway. Nothing can get on the on-ramp because the cars from 3 hours ago are still parked.
That's a perfect analogy. And because nothing is moving, you feel full, bloated, maybe a little nauseous. You don't want to eat.
Wow.
The commentator in our source was saying, I have this naturally, and it's not fun. It's miserable. And yet, millions of people are injecting themselves to mimic this exact physiological state.
It's like breaking your leg on purpose so you don't have to run. I mean, it works to keep you sedentary, I guess, but at what cost? You're inducing a pathology to achieve an aesthetic.
That is the trade-off.
Yeah.
And the source really emphasized the melting effect that comes with this rapid weight loss. We talked about the face being sunken, but the source described the skin on Kelly's body in a very visceral way.
Yeah, they use the phrase folds of skin and dripping off. That stuck with me. That's not a word in your body.
Dripping off. It's a horrifying image, but it speaks to the speed of the weight loss. When you lose weight naturally, usually it happens over months or years. Your skin is an organ. It's elastic, but it needs time to adapt.
It needs to catch up.
It needs to catch up. If you lose a pound a week, your skin shrinks with you.
But with these drugs, the weight falls off a cliff.
Right. When you chemically force your body to drop mass this quickly, the skin cannot keep up. It hangs. It loses its structural integrity. It becomes like an oversized suit on a shrinking frame.
The source mentioned that lighting plays a huge role. In good lighting, maybe on a red carpet with flashes, they might look youth-snapped, but bad.
In bad lighting, the illusion breaks. The source describes it as looking like they are deteriorating. The lack of fat means there's no buffer. You see the structure, you see the loose skin, and you see the melt.
So it creates this dissonance.
A huge dissonance.
Yeah.
Your brain knows something isn't right. It signals illness to our primate brains, not fitness. We're evolutionarily programmed to see rapid wasting as a sign of disease or famine.
So we're fighting millions of years of evolution that tells us this person is sick and trying to rebrand it as this person is fashionable.
Exactly. And then there is the tolerance issue. This is the part that really makes you wonder about the long-term future of Hollywood. The source asks, do the drugs stop working?
We touched on this with Sharon not being able to gain weight back. But there's the other side, too. What happens if your body just gets used to it?
It's a valid fear. They cited an anecdote about a woman who had to lower her dose because of the cost. These drugs are incredibly expensive, hundreds or thousands a month, and the efficacy just vanished.
It just stopped working.
Completely. But even beyond the cost, there is a biological tolerance. The body is smart. It fights for homeostasis.
Homeostasis, that's the body's desire to stay the same, right? To find a balance.
Yes, your body wants to survive. If you block a pathway, the body tries to find another way. If you starve it, it tries to slow your metabolism. If you block hunger signals, it might ramp up other signals.
The whack-a-mole effect?
Exactly what the source called it. When you change one major mechanism in the body, chemically, how you process food, how you feel hunger, what other mechanisms are being disrupted, we are playing whack-a-mole with our biology.
So we knock down hunger, but what pops up?
What pops up? Anxiety, depression, permanent gastroparesis.
So that stomach paralysis, it might not go away.
That is the fear. We know Sharon can't gain the weight back. What if the stomach paralysis becomes permanent? What if the vagus nerve is permanently altered? We are seeing the aesthetic side effects now, the Ozempic face, because that's visible. We can see it on Instagram.
Right.
But the internal long-term effect, that is a giant question mark. We are altering the endocrine system in real time.
It's like we are running a massive uncontrolled experiment on the world's most famous people, and we are just now getting the first data points. And the data points they look like Kelly Osbourne at the Grammys.
And that visual data point changes how we view everyone else, which brings us to a really interesting cultural shift that the source identified. It's not just about the people on the drug. It's about how we treat the people who aren't.
Oh, this is the Jelly Roll paradox. I loved this part of the source material because I love Jelly Roll. His story is so compelling.
It is a fascinating counterexample. So for those who don't know, Jelly Roll is a musician who has lost a massive amount of weight recently.
A huge amount.
He has been documenting it. He's a big guy, and he's been working incredibly hard. And crucially, he's been very vocal about not using GLP-1s.
He said he was afraid of the side effects, right?
Yeah.
He wanted to do it the hard way. He wanted the discipline.
Correct. He cited the health risks and wanted to avoid them. So he does the work. He diets, he exercises, he loses the weight through caloric deficit and movement. He's sweating in the gym. He's eating the chicken and broccoli.
Okay.
But here's the problem. Society no longer believes him.
That is so unfair. You do the work, you put in the sweat equity, and everyone just assumes you took the shortcut.
This is the death of natural credibility. We have entered an era where any significant weight loss is automatically assumed to be pharmaceutical. The source argues that we have lost the ability to give people the benefit of the doubt.
The default assumption is now drug-assisted.
It is. It's like the boy who cried wolf, but for diet and exercise.
Right.
If you are a celebrity and you get scuttly, you are guilty until proven innocent. You have to prove you didn't take the drug.
And how do you prove a negative?
You can't. Even if you are innocent, you might not be believed. This leads to what the source called the middle ground theory. This is really cynical, but probably true.
That's the theory.
The idea is that to be believed, you now have to curate your weight loss perfectly.
Meaning you can't lose too much.
Exactly. You have to lose just enough to look healthy, but not enough to look Ozempic skinny. If you look too good or you lose it too fast, you are branded a user.
That's insane.
So we're in this weird space where natural results are viewed with suspicion, unless they are mediocre results.
That is wild. So excellence is suspicious. Radical transformation is you have to be mediocre to be considered honest. If you work too hard and get too ripped, fake.
In the realm of celebrity weight loss, yes, the bar has been moved. And this skepticism feeds back into the philosophy of it all. If nobody believes you did the work, does the work still matter?
That is the big question. And that brings us to segment 4, the philosophy of discipline versus chemistry. This was the part of the source material that I found the most provocative. It went beyond the meta soul of
The source posed a fundamental question. Does the way you lose the weight matter for your happiness? Or is the result the only thing that counts?
The argument was that if you don't exercise and diet, if you don't build the habits, you don't get the positive emotions associated with They called it earn happiness.
Earn happiness.
Yeah.
It's a powerful concept. The source used the anecdote of losing 20 pounds just by quitting soda.
Right. And that's a behavioral change. You have to wake up every day and decide not to drink the soda. You go to the fridge, you see the Coke, and you grab the water. That's a micro-decision choice.
And that resistance builds character. It builds a sense of self-efficacy. I did this. You are training your brain to delay gratification. When you successfully resist the soda, you get a hit of dopamine that says, I am in control.
But when you take the injection,
The result happens. You lose the weight because you physically can't eat. But the internal narrative is different.
you didn't fight the dragon, you just magically teleported past it.
Exactly. The dragon is still there. You just bypassed it.
Yeah.
And the fear is, if you teleport back, the dragon is waiting for you, and you haven't learned how to use your sword.
They also used the skating analogy. One of the commentators,
Yes, the contrasted skating in the summer versus sitting around in the winter. The joy of physical activity, skating, moving, sweating, creates natural endorphin.
it's a holistic happiness.
The weight loss in that scenario is a side effect of a lifestyle that feels good.
Yeah.
You aren't skating to lose weight. You are skating because you love it, and you lose weight as a result.
Versus the drug analogy. The source compared Ozempic to using drugs to be happy. Like, if you take a drug to feel joy, when the drug runs out, you haven't learned how to be happy on your own.
Really?
You haven't built the infrastructure for joy.
Precisely. If you use a drug to lose weight, when the drug runs out or stops working, as we discussed, you haven't learned the skills to maintain that state. You haven't learned to cook healthy meals. You haven't learned to love exercise.
You are chemically thin, not behavioral.
Exactly. And the source argues that you miss out on the sense of accomplishment. You look in the mirror and see a smaller body, but do you feel the pride of having built it, or do you just feel relief?
Or do you feel like an imposter in your own skin?
That's the risk.
But, and I think this is important, the skeptic in me has to play devil's advocate here, and the source did too. There is a flip side to this discipline argument,
For sure.
because not everyone starts from the same starting line. And honestly, looking at obesity rate, clearly willpower hasn't been working for the population out.
You are absolutely right. And it's crucial we don't ignore it. The source was very nuanced here. They brought up the health reality.
The 20-pound dumbbell analogy.
Right. The commentator noted that carrying 20, 30, 40 extra pounds is like walking around curling 20-pound weights all day. It destroys your knees. It stresses your heart. It compresses your spine.
The mechanical load on the body.
It is. So if a drug can take that weight off, does it matter if you earned it? Your knees don't care about your character. They just care about the pressure.
Your heart doesn't care if you suffered to lose the weight. It just cares that it doesn't have to pump as hard.
Exactly. Relieving that physical stress is valuable regardless of how it is achieved. If Ozempic saves someone's knees or lowers their heart disease risk, that is a net positive, even if they didn't suffer through a diet to get there.
That makes sense.
Biology doesn't care about the morality of the method. Health outcomes are health outcomes.
There was also the food as a drug concept. The source was really honest about this. They said, you aren't hungry, you're bored.
A line that resonates with many of us, I'm sure. For many people, food is an addiction. It's a dopamine. We live in an obesogenic environment where highly palatable, calorie-dense food is everywhere.
It's all around us.
The source acknowledged that if you are fighting a chemical addiction to food, if your brain is wired to crave sugar the way an addict craves a fix, maybe you need a chemical weapon to fight back.
That's a fair point. If you're bringing a knife to a gunfight, maybe Ozempic is the gun. Maybe willpower isn't enough when the chemistry is against.
And the commentator admitted, and I respected this honesty, that as a naturally thin person, they can't fully judge.
That was a moment of genetic empathy.
Yes, the commentator admitted they have a genetic stomach issue that keeps them thin. They've never had to fight obesity. They've never felt that uncontrollable hunger. So they conceded. If willpower didn't work for someone who has struggled their whole life, can we really blame them for taking the shortcut?
It's easy to preach about discipline when you have a fast metabolism. It's easy to say, just eat less when you don't feel like you're starving.
Exactly. So the philosophy isn't black and white. Yes, earned happiness might be deeper, but chemical relief is still relief. And for someone like Sharon or Kelly Osbourne, who have lived their lives under the microscope, maybe relief was all they wanted.
But did they get relief, or did they just trade one set of problems for another? That leads us to segment 5, the psychological fallout.
This brings us back to the mirror. We talked about dysmorphia earlier, but we need to go deeper into the concept of delusion.
The source used that word specifically. They wondered if Kelly looks in the mirror and sees skinny and successful, while the rest of the world sees sickly and gaunt.
It's a disconnect, and it's fueled by the industry. The people around them, agents, managers, yes men, are they telling the truth?
Probably not.
Probably not. But there's another layer the source mentioned, rage baiting.
Oh, this is the idea that they might be doing it on purpose. This blew my mind.
Not necessarily the weight loss itself, but the presentation. The source suggested that sometimes celebrities or their team might hollow out their faces even more in editing.
Wait, they would make themselves look worse. Why? Why would you want to look like you're dying?
Engagement, rage bait. In the attention economy, the worst thing you can be is boring.
Oh, wow.
If you look pretty, people scroll. Oh, nice dress.
Yeah.
Keep scrolling. If you look shocking, people stop. They comment. They share. They argue. Look at her hands. Look at her face. Is she okay? It drives traffic.
That is so dark. You would trade your vanity for virality. You'd rather look sickly and trend than look healthy and be ignored.
It is a possibility, the source. In the algorithmic world, shock is current. And looking like a walking skeleton is shocking. It gets clicks, it gets headlines, it gets us talking about it right now.
So we are part of the problem.
In a way, yes. Our attention validates the strategy.
But beneath the rage bait and the engagement farming, the source tone wasn't really angry.
It was. There was a distinct sense of pity. And I think that's the right emotion. You have Kelly Osbourne, who spent her youth being torn apart by the tabloids for being big.
I remember the headlines. Kelly's battle with the bulge. It was relentless.
It was cruel. And now she has done the extreme opposite. She has surgically and chemically altered herself to be small. She did what they told her to do.
Right.
And what is happening? She is being torn apart for being too small.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
It is the trap of celebrity culture. You cannot win. You are either too much or not enough. But, and here is the distinction, the tragedy isn't just the public opinion.
What is it then?
The tragedy is the health risk, the stomach issue, the loose skin, the potential permanent damage.
Right. It's not just that people are mean on Twitter. It's that she might have permanently damaged her body to appease people who were never going to be happy with her anyway.
That is the core sadness. Sacrificing your physiology for an audience that will jeer at you regardless of your size.
Wow. Okay, let's take a breath. We have covered a lot. From the man hands to the stomach paralysis, from the death of discipline to the engagement farming of looking sick. Let's try to wrap this up in our outro.
We need to summarize this perfect storm.
It really is a perfect storm. We defined the problematic convert. It's not just surgery. It's not just drug. It's the collision of.
It's surgical structure meets chemical wasting. It creates a look that is technically skinny, but signals illness to our primal brain.
It's the uncanny valley of weight. And we talked about the collateral damage, the people like Jelly Roll who do it the right way but get lumped in with the users, the loss of credibility.
And the loss of the journey. The idea that by skipping the struggle, we might be skipping the growth.
We are in uncharted territory. We used to say you can't be too rich or too thin. I think we are finding out that actually, yes, you can, or at least you can be thin.
We are finding that looking healthy according to Instagram standards, might actually be a sign of deep sickness. And natural results are viewed with suspicion. It is a confusing time to be a body in public space.
It really is. So leave us with one final thought. We've talked about the source material, the facts, the photos. What is the big takeaway for the listener to mull?
Here's what I want you to think of. We touched on the idea that the positive emotion of weight loss comes from the discipline of doing, the daily choice, the struggle, the victory.
Right. Earned happiness.
If that is true, what happens to a society that outsources that discipline to a weekly injection?
You mean if we automate the struggle? If we make willpower
Exactly. If we can buy the result without the process, are we creating a future where we look better, more angular, thinner, smoother, but we feel nothing? Are we optimizing our bodies while hollowing out our souls, just like the drugs hollow out the face?
Are we creating a generation of Ozempic spirits? Beautiful, empty, and unable to digest the world that is haunting?
It's a question worth asking before you book that appointment.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to this deep dive. As always, stay curious, ask questions, and maybe, just maybe, take the stairs today. We'll see you next time.